Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And I hope everybody's having a beautiful day or a beautiful night, wherever you guys are watching this from. Listen, as we really kind of look at a few things, I just made a video the other day talking about how we are so close and we are seeing these new global rails being put in place and how XRP is the holy grail. Now, in this video, I actually want to go a little bit more in depth into this because, again, this video was 20 minutes long. It was a little bit harder to actually go in depth on a few of the topics I wanted to talk about, but a lot of you had a few questions, which was, Nick, if we're so close, why do you keep saying that we have, a year or two or whatever? And the big thing that I want to address here is that when I say that we are so close to this new financial system, it means that we are starting to see everything being put in place. Now, when we talk about XRP, pushing in price and seeing a new all-time high and stuff like that, I do believe that we are very close to that. In fact, I just recently made a video talking about how we could see that in this next bull run, which is going to happen in most likely the next 12 to 24 months. So as we really kind of look at what's going on right now, we're close to that bull run, but things are falling into place around the global scheme of things, meaning them tapping into DLT and blockchain for, again, the financial rails of the system. Now, outside of that, the reason why I wanted to go a little bit more in depth into this is because there is some great information regarding what's actually happening with Ripple and with XRP. Shout out to ISO 20022 for this. We do see Bank's commentary on potential Ripple partnerships after good news from the SEC case. Listen closely to this video, and then I want to go in depth on what we recently just seen announced from Ripple and how XRP plays a role in all of this.
Is the one most recent post which I commented on your LinkedIn, which is this payment systems that you had a session with Ripple. Tell me about it. I mean, like Paul Zello, Ripple. I was like, how did these two come together?
It's a really good question. And all this blockchain stuff and all of I don't get it. I'll be the first to admit it. But I'm trying to understand. My 32-year-old son, who's a bit more savvy to all of this stuff, he put his hard-earned dollars in buying some shares in Ripple. And he doesn't part with his money easily. In fact, he'd rather buy these shares and pay the money he owes back mum and dad, which I wasn't really impressed about. But that's another story. But that sort of made me stand up and take a little bit of notice.
Right.
And again, I'm not an expert on it, but I understand. They approached us some time ago. But at the time, they were battling some legal battle in the US. And our position to them was, look, come back to us once that's sorted out, because you only get one chance at a first impression. And if this court case doesn't go well for you, it wasn't good. So anyway, they got a good result in the US court case. And they approached us again. And look, we're going to have a bit more of a look at it. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on it, but we may look to promote their product. And again, it'll be buyer beware. We'll say to our members, look, here's this new technology. From what I can understand, it can generate real-time transfer of payments. And they seem to have a lot of checks and balances in place. At the briefing that I was at where I did that post, there was a lot of representatives from the major banks that were very interested in it. So it is a real thing. But how that translates to meaningful solutions for our members, we'll only understand that in a bit more time.
So you guys have it. And again, this is all really what we have been waiting for. And a lot of these major banks that are looking into Ripple, they want to tap into XRP as well. We know this from Bank of America. Now, does this mean that all of the banks are lining up to tap into Ripple? No. But I do believe that a lot of the significant ones, like Bank of America, are still waiting on the sidelines simply for the institutional sales of XRP to be cleared up. But if that isn't, they could still tap into Ripple and they could buy XRP on the open market. But we still have to wait and see what happens with that. But I do believe that we are starting to see things align for banks to actually look into Ripple a little bit more heavily. And I think that they are all aware of it as well. Just like he is saying, there was a meeting where representatives from all the major banks were there, and they're looking into this now. They're interested into it because, again, those real-time payments and unlocking a ton of, new revenue options as well, it's game-changing for the banks as well. And outside of this, we know where the major central banks are going as well. We know what they're focused on, CBDCs. So we see here, do you know CBDCs aren't just for central banks? Top use cases for CBDCs include cross-border payments, consumer to business payments, and there's a 49-second long clip of, I'm pretty sure, James Wallace explaining this. I'm going to play this clip real quick, but this was recently posted by Ripple as well. So as we really kind of look at CBDCs, yeah, it's not just for central banks. Like, as we look at business payments and things like that, it could revolutionize that as well. Now, yes, do we still have concerns around CBDCs? Are we still concerned with what central banks can do with CBDCs? 100%, and I think that we should be. But having the public and private collaboration here is crucial, meaning having Ripple tapped in with CBDCs as well is a big deal, because we know that Ripple has been working on privacy preserving technology within CBDCs. So it's definitely interesting to see Ripple, leaning more towards CBDCs and working on CBDCs as well. And we also know from their CBDC videos, and I've said this a million times as well, they're positioning XRP at the center point for CBDCs, meaning they want XRP to be the bridge for all of these CBDCs. Now, is that how everything's going to align? We don't know, right? We're still very early on with CBDCs. We don't even know how CBDCs are going to look a year from now, 2 years from now, or maybe even 5 years from now. But I still want to bring up the idea that as we really kind of look at CBDCs, they're still positioning XRP at the center point for that. And we actually know this from their November 8th post, where they did have decoding a CBDC report, key learnings from a dozen countries that are already undergoing CBDC pilot programs. Within this, we can actually see a few of the key coverage points. So we get key insights from central banks that can learn from current CBDC exploration and use cases, areas central banks should research further, innovations that central banks should closely monitor, and also how central banks can best engage in the existing payments ecosystem. Now, within this report, again, we've already kind of looked into a few of these from currency research. In fact, Hedera was a major player within this as well, Algorand as well. There's a few ones. But specifically within this report, we do get a little bit more of an in-depth view on how disruptive CBDCs could very well be and how it could accelerate things around the world, not just around central banks, but also even around businesses. Remember, the whole campaign this year from Ripple, and even starting in 2022, was crypto means business, meaning crypto could essentially streamline a lot of the processes that are lengthy, that are fragmented, and things like that around the current traditional system. Now, within this, we could see a few of the highlights here. We could also see the players that are already tapped in. Again, here you guys have XRP. You see the XRP logo there, being that bridge currency between all of the CBDCs and all of the major currencies out there in the world. And we see some of the major projects that are already building out within Ripple. For example, Republic of Palau, Royal Monetary Authority of Bhutan. These are key ones to really kind of highlight, because they are, the major ones that are already live or even working with Ripple and even XRP. Now, if we scroll down, we can actually see entering the next phase of CBDC exploration. This is where we start to see, how can these central banks, advance and utilize these solutions more heavily. It requires laying down the foundation for end user adoption and developing an ecosystem that will fuel innovation and value-added services. In this paper, part 3 of our series on central bank digital currencies, we shed light on a series of questions that central banks must consider as they mature in their CBDC journey. Again, now we're starting to see the architecture of this design and this system coming to life. And again, a lot of all of this is based upon DLT, as you guys do see here. So when we really kind of look at DLT and blockchain, it is still a crucial piece of the puzzle here. if we scroll down, we could see a few quotes. This one here is pretty significant because it does highlight DLT yet again. It is incumbent on central banks to participate in CBDC research. However, it cannot be assumed that all central banks have ready access to technical resources and are familiar with advanced concepts under the CBDC banner. This is aspects of DLT, cryptography, and also establishing partnerships with private companies serves to increase the capacity of the monetary authority towards managing overall solution development and implementation. And again, this is also a key thing to highlight here. Partnerships with private companies. This is where Ripple comes into play. Although Ripple is a private company, they've been very transparent. And if we actually look at what Ripple has been doing, these are the partnerships with all of those major banks that are crucial to note, considering the fact that they are tapped in with Ripple, and a lot of central banks are already in discussion with Ripple. I think it was like 20 to 30 from what we've seen from James Wallace, that are exploring this. Because again, they want to not only increase the capacity of what they are trying to do here, but also to streamline what they are trying to do as well. And a lot of this is just based upon development and implementation. And with the Ripple CBDC and stablecoin platform, it's really kind of streamlining that entire process. But there's a lot of things here, right? And even though they even say here that DLT-based CBDCs have been successfully tested and even issued in a couple markets, further research around use of DLT for CBDC is needed, which is also why we really kind of look at what the BIS has been doing. Offline payments is a big thing. They even mentioned the BIS here as well. We know that they've actually achieved offline payments. And we also even see down here another quote: many central banks in developing countries cannot rely on internet and smartphone access, and hence CBDCs solely in the form of DLT would be deemed unusable in those areas. Therefore, hardware bearer instruments fill the gaps where DLT falls short. And what's interesting about this quote is that what they're not realizing is that a lot of the DLT use cases, even within the XRP ledger, can actually perform even offline, which is very significant from the XRP ledger side of things. And that's also why I even note it with Ripple XDev on X. They just highlighted a use case that could actually achieve offline payments. IDEMIA is actually looking into offline payments as well, even with Hedera, which is a pretty big one as well. But there's a lot of information here, obviously. But as we really kind of look at what's going on, the private sector engagement is crucial. For an example, here's how can central banks best engage the existing payments ecosystem. We have low engagement, medium engagement, and then high engagement. And this is with a high level of private sector engagement. The central bank allows not only selected intermediaries, but also a broader group of stakeholders, such as a group of merchants and consumers, to access, use, and transact in CBDCs. This one's definitely interesting. Like, as we really kind of look at what's going on, specifically this year, we started to see Ripple working with the BIS. We also seen them working with the IMF, the World Bank, the FSB, with the G20. They are now looking into the private sector to get their voice of reason, but also to look into their solutions on what's possible, how we can implement it, how can we move further on this, and what are we going to do to finally have all of this go live. And I think that Ripple being a highlighted player there, and they were the only major player highlighted on a lot of those PDF files, and even within the CPMI group, I think that that speaks volumes. But also outside of this, we know that going back to August of 2022, we've seen towards the holy grail of cross-border payments released by the ECB. This one is also very interesting. So if we look onto this, there's not much being said on the forefront of, XRP or anything like that. Again, they mentioned global stablecoins, they mentioned Bitcoin, they mentioned a few things within this, but this is the abstract behind this. So the holy grail of cross-border payments is a solution allowing cross-border payments to be immediate, cheap, universal, and settled in a secure settlement medium. Now, right here, everyone is probably thinking XRP, right? And I think that's good to note the fact that, yeah, it really does it kind of speaks in the way that we've always known around XRP, on how XRP is performed with cross-border payments and stuff like that. But over here specifically within this PDF file, we see them highlighting a group. Do you see that group? It's the CPMI. Over here, we have the CPMI, Committee on Payments and Market Infrastructures. This is July of 2023. Cross-border payments interoperability and extension task force composition. We see that the ECB is the chair here, Director of General Market Infrastructure and Payments, and we see the task force members. Ripple is highlighted. This is why I bring this back up. When we look back in time to August of 2022, and we specifically go down here, we see initiatives have launched or have been launched to address some of the above issues. The issues are, end users in emerging markets and developing economies, higher ALM and CFT cost and risk, and less competition. The CPMI group, 2018, we're talking about going back 5 years now, suggests that through the wide-scale adoption of ISO 20022, payment service providers will be able to accomplish fully automated STP. Whilst the motivations for ISO 20022 originally stemmed from a desire for greater efficiency in cross-border payments, it has been increasingly adopted in systems for real-time instant domestic retail payments. In addition, ISO 20022 supports greater automation of several compliance checks as payment messages, when compared with other messaging formats, include additional information fields. RBA 2019, Major and Mangano 2020. Finally, banking, payment, and settlement systems tend to evolve towards 24-hour operations, which would solve the issue of disjunct operating hours across time zones. So as we look into what the CPMI group is doing here, they are streamlining and addressing all of these problems. The Committee to Improve Correspondent Banking has also been demonstrated by a number of the G20 FSB cross-border payments building blocks focusing on these issues. CPMI 2020 and FSB 2020. Building blocks 5, 6, 7, 8 all aim at improving the efficiency of compliance checks. These are, of course, not only relevant for correspondent banking, but for any cross-border payment solution. For instance, Building Block 12 aims at ensuring overlapping of payment system operating hours across time zones. Likewise, Building Block 14 relates to the promotion of common message formats such as ISO 20022. So, again, this is what I want to focus on, is the idea that, yes, although we are close, it's a very broad statement, we are getting there. As we look at everything happening around ISO 20022, we talk about regulations, we talk about implementing DLT, blockchain, all of this. It's all connected in some sort of way. With the CPMI group, and when we talk about the holy grail around cross-border payments, really kind of just saying word for word what we've already known around XRP. I mean, this just screams XRP to me, but that's just because I've been researching XRP for so many years now at this point. So it's like, could we just tie this right back to XRP? We could, right? Because again, within this paper, they do tap in to everything happening around cross-border payments. They highlight the G20 working with the FSB and even working with the CPMI. And knowing what we know about what the G20 and the FSB have been doing and how they allowed Ripple to comment on global crypto regulatory frameworks while in the middle of the lawsuit back in December of 2022, I do believe that a lot of this is directly tied back to what Ripple has been doing and what a lot of these players have been doing that are on the CPMI group. I would argue that the CPMI group, because all of this is labeled under financial infrastructures, a lot of these players that are under this group are key significant players that have a role in this new global financial system. Now, again, that new global financial system is not going to happen overnight, but we are getting closer as we go down the line on a few things like regulations, standardization, you name it. But with Ripple being on here, it's so crucial to mention them because everything that we have seen around even the ECB, because the ECB is the chair on here, they want to streamline cross-border payments. They want to streamline the entire system. And I think that's so crucial to understand how all of this really kind of ties into one another, with ISO 20022 being the harmonization of standardization. And then we have the global regulatory frameworks, which is going to harmonize regulations. And then, of course, last but not least, we have implementation of new infrastructure around the financial system, which again is why I say Ripple is technically the infrastructure layer or a new infrastructure layer that could be tapped in and really kind of streamline a lot of the major processes around even cross-border payments, but also beyond cross-border payments as well. So I think that this is very crucial to mention. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, though. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you guys did enjoy the video, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Peace out.